A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Zurgo Stormrender versus Akim, Titania and Omnath. 3-land, can we do anything else? Not really. Don't even have all our colours, so we mulligan into, amazingly, unusual for Magic Online that we actually get into multiple lands in our opening hand. We've got surveils to make, but we're effectively in top deck mode there, so we go down a card. Alright, that's more like it, into a 1-lander that we usually get into in the early game. Again, we're in top deck mode, but can we get into a land off a surveil and then make our way up to a board wipe if we need to make the game last longer? This is a silly keep, but I will keep it and get rid of the board wipe. Let's just have a bit of a meta game and see how far we can get here. We do draw on turn 1 still. Alright, and that's a land, so just play in the Felmire tapped. Just some lands, a mana dork for the green player. And there's your Henny, so we get ourselves into a sack outlet as well. Obviously we're going for the Arcane Signet here. We've got plenty of white in hand, so let's go for the scrub land. And we can make red with the Arcane Signet. Titania has a Sol Ring as well and casts a Fork in the Road. So search for 2 basic lands, 1 into hand, 1 into the graveyard. And after that, obviously plays the land from hand and is able to get down a 3 visits, so 4 cards in hand but plenty of mana. And the Jeskai player just plays a land and passes. There we get into the land, so we have not been punished for keeping the 1-lander amazingly. Do we want Summoning Sickness away from our commander? It's probably going to be a good idea. Priority being held up by Akim, so might be able to counter or remove our stuff, but nothing we can do about that. Just have to pass and keep our fingers crossed. Rhystic Study, and apparently was holding up the counter magic in the form of a negate. Couldn't have got our Zurgo with that, but doesn't want to see the Rhystic Study. This is bracket 3 by the way, so that is the first game changer from Omnath. I think we've only got one game changer in the form of Field of the Dead in this deck actually. Anyway, Titania, the second commander to hit play, plays a land into that, making a 5-3 forest. Or a 5-3 elemental off the forest, I should say. The more creatures that Titania makes as well, the better the Call the Coppercoats is going to be for us. So if we get a land next turn, it might be worth setting up with Elise. That triggers at the beginning of each end step, so we can still make use of these instant token makers and try and flood the board. Won't be the worst thing in the world to play the Yahenni as a sack outlet. There's Lightning Greaves, so if we could get into a land off the Zurgo, we'd need to sacrifice the tokens during the attack phase, so that's attack, block, or the damage phase. Let's get down Yahenni, and then we'll just spread some damage around here. So Yahenni can go to the right, and Zurgo to the left, and we get to mobilise 1. We'll allow the damage through, send the token to the right so that it's 3 apiece, and allow ourselves to go through to the damage phase. So damage is now dealt, but the token is still attacking, so we can sacrifice it here in order to draw a card. And did not get into a land, but we're a step closer to one at least. Can't be too greedy when we kept a 1-lander. That was another sack outlet in case the board gets wiped. Noteworthy that Retribution of the Meek is going to be good against Titania as well. Azusa from Omnath, see if he can fix his colours. Playing the cheaper fetches like Myriad Landscape and Sheltering Landscape. He's previously played the Bountiful Landscape and Grasslands. Scout the borders for the mono green player, reveal the top 5 cards, put a creature or land from amongst them into hand, reveals to us Roiling Regrowth, Maze of Ith, Elvish Reclaimer, a Forest, and Spring Bloom Druid. Looks as though he took the Spring Bloom Druid, plays another land into his commander, and there we see the Druid played immediately. So he'll obviously make landfall twice here. Both of the 5-3s swing in towards us. Oh no, the 5-3 and a 6-6, so we take 6 commander damage, plummet down to 28. I'd like to make use of Call the Coppercoats against this guy, but if he's going to be doing that, he's got 2 mana held up for a heroic intervention, unfortunately, but he's just shown us he's willing to attack us for a lot, so might have to go for this next turn. Keeper of the Accord in order to catch up on mana, which, yeah, he's got a couple of landfall players he should be able to do that with. That will fix his colours as well, because he doesn't have any red yet. Us drawing into that extra card previously ends up being relevant because we get to drop a Vault of the Archangel here. So we'll throw that down. And I'll try Retribution of the Meek before we go for anything else because it might dictate how we swing, holding up priority. So we assume that he might have Heroic Intervention but decides not to use it. Your Henny is going to get a bunch of plus counters, and you may mill 3 cards whenever an elemental you control dies, so see if he wants to go for the mass land reanimation. Looks like he is deciding to mill his deck. You would assume that you would build the deck around this. So we see Azusa, Steve, obviously we'll get lands, Ancient Green Warden, Findhorn Elves, Nykthos, Balaged Recovery, Overwhelming Stampede, Eternal Witness, Summer Bloom, and our Yahenni is now a 7/7. So I'm going to go Lightning Greaves onto that, I think. And just to dissuade players from coming in to hit us, I will leave the Yahenni behind. Could try and force the chump block with this guy, but I'm taking Zurgo straight down the middle. Mobilize can go down the middle as well. They can block during combat if they want. We need to get a surplus of tokens into play if we can in order to keep Yahenni in play, because it will gain indestructible if we sacrifice something. Deciding to take all the damage. So again, I'm going to go through to the damage phase and then sacrifice the token. Care more about card draw in the early game. Selfless Spirit, a means of protecting our board, and Keeper of the Accord sees that we have one more creature, so makes the first soldier token. Ramunap with Azusa is very, very good. Luckily he's got the slow fetches, like I said. So played and cracked the Sheltering Landscape, cracks Bountiful Landscape as well, and has played the Grasslands, which enters tapped, so we can't fetch with that straight away. Keeper of the Accord triggers on the lands this time, and it's going to trigger on the lands on the green player's turn as well, so this thing's going to do some work this game. Tapping out to put Titania back into play, and plays a forest. Haven't seen any fetches here yet. Manages to land a Sylvan Library. Our opponent hasn't missed yet. Luckily he doesn't have a Lightning Greaves of his own, although he couldn't swing into our 7/7 anyway. So Keeper triggers twice this time, once for a land, once for a soldier token. And amazingly he didn't go for a red previously. I would have thought he'd gone for 2 mountains here. Again didn't go for a mountain, weirdly. Elspeth's Champions, see if they want to tick down with this. If they do, we'll be forced to sacrifice Zurgo, unfortunately. Would be good to keep Titania out of play though. Makes 3 tokens instead, so this means we can hold up Call the Coppercoats for 5 probably, and point it at a couple of our opponents. It's a shame that we didn't get the chance to get down Felice though, but hopefully the elemental player is distracted by Elspeth, as it probably should be, and goes to deal with that instead of coming in at us again. We get another land, so don't see the harm in just playing that straight away. I don't think we can sneak this down really, and like I said, we need tokens that we can chump with and also sacrifice to this to keep it in play, because it'll be really tough to deal with if we can manage to do that. Let's swing in our commander to the left, and if they want a double block then we get to choose what we hit at least. I'm just going to go in with the token towards Elspeth. They can chump block it if they want. We get to draw a card if that's the case. We are holding up Vault of the Archangel, so our opponent does have to think about how they're blocking here. Decides to chump with a soldier token, which I don't think we need to worry about indestructible on Yahenni. I'd rather kill the soldier token and buff our legends, so we'll let it go through like that. And we get to draw a card either way. A Sol Ring. So does that change anything? We can play the Sol Ring, and then that will leave us with 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, which means we can go for 7 into Call the Coppercoats, or we could put Selfless Spirits in play. Is probably going to be a better idea, although our opponents don't seem to be playing board wipes. I don't think the additional 2 mana into this is going to make that much difference, so Selfless Spirits. No, actually we need double white for this, don't we? So we're only doing it once apparently. Yeah, that's a shame, the colours aren't great yet, but we'll get a decent number of tokens with this. I think it's probably still worth having the Selfless Spirit in play. Omnath is the penultimate commander to hit play. Draws a card when it enters, goes up to 6 in hand, and can make a bunch of landfall here. Gains 4 life on the first one, makes 4 colours on the second one, and will deal 4 damage to us all with the final third land. He's going to spend the mana first. Makes land with a Nature's Law. Just wondering, it could be worth instead going for Secure the Wastes instead. We can just put 4 into X. I'm just thinking of Thalisei, maximising that. We could sneak it down next turn and then go for this the turn after. Anyway, a Felidar Retreat as well. We've gone down to 24. It's going to be worth looking at this seriously with your Henny in a turn or two. Maybe even next turn. Oh, it's noteworthy this does it to each opponent and each Planeswalker. So Elspeth has gone down to 1. I forgot it did it to Planeswalkers. I don't know if that's ever been relevant whenever I've done it. Anyway, 4 cards in hand, did not play a land into this. And Keeper of the Accord triggers for what I'm assuming is another non-mountain. And yep, still no red. See how much life he wants to put into Sylvan Library this turn. A full grip for Titania has gone down to 24. Plays Avenger of Zendikar with plenty of lands in play already. So that makes me want to get greedy and hold on to us playing this into Call the Coppercoats. Can we afford both in a turn? Yes, we can at the moment. We just won't be able to pay the Strive cost. Anyway, throws out a land to make an elemental, plus counters on the plants. The Staff of Titania, +X, where X is the number of forests. Does this have trample? No, it doesn't. Still plenty of forests in the graveyard for our opponent to play with his commander. Doesn't have multiple land drops a turn though, at least. And doesn't swing in, thankfully. Keeper of the Accord, gonna get both the triggers again. Or actually, no, it's not both, it's just the soldier token. The grasslands is being sacrificed, so that will be the first landfall for this turn, meaning that he will gain 4 life over here. Felidar Retreat will either do a cat or plus counters. It is a cat token. So our opponent manages to untap with Elspeth still in play. It only adds 1 loyalty at least, so we'll be able to take it out with this. Or I suppose if we don't want to tap this, we can always rely on Omnath getting rid of it, because he's still got his Ramunap and Azusa in play, so he's going to be able to make landfall 3 times a turn quite easily. Enduring Curiosity is a coastal piracy effect on a creature. I always forget that has flash as well. Apparently our opponent forgot as well, so he's looking to attack in this turn, you have to imagine. Probably comes in at us. Alright, and all of this coming in towards us, so do we go for Call the Coppercoats now? We get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 creatures. We'd only have 2 into X on Secure the Waste if we go for Thalisei next turn, but we can refill our hand with your Henny, so is that even the play we're going to go for? We could just take some damage here, we're only taking 4 effectively. Secure the Wastes. X is only 4 on this, and that is allowed to land, so we get these weird looking warrior tokens. And then block is definitely your Henny. And do we want to go down to 20? I mean, for the sake of getting rid of some 1/1s, I don't suppose it really matters when we've got big creatures incoming. So yeah, let's just take the 4. Probably have to sacrifice these during combat anyway. Does mean that this player is refilling his hand. He finally got into a mountain, so he does have basic mountains, he just wasn't fishing them out for some reason. Anyway, one of his creatures dies, so your Henny gets bigger. Hopefully we'll get a chance to use this at some point whilst your Henny's still in play. Draws 4 cards to the Enduring Curiosity, and an Anointed Procession is going to catch up on the creatures much more quickly with a Keeper of the Accord. He's got 6 in play at the moment to our 7. Of course, but has the Elspeth, so it's going to make 6 soldier tokens. I think I do want to hold back the Selfless Spirit as a blocker. We might have to block and sack in order to keep our tokens in play. Right, a Voice of Victory means that they can't cast spells during our turn. That's more of a card that we're going to play after a board wipe, I think. Or when we definitely want to get a certain play going. So let's swing in with the warrior tokens. I'll just take them all in to the right. And now the mono green player has disconnected and scooped. So that's a ban. One of the biggest threats at the table. That's totally changed the outcome of the game, I imagine. Anyhow, all these are still going to the right. I'll just swing them in at Elspeth. And I imagine all of these get blocked, which means we're forcing him to lose out on some soldier tokens at least. Might change things with regards to Call the Coppercoats though, because he's going to have fewer tokens. We can wait for him to do stuff during his turn and then play Call the Coppercoats. We're still going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 tokens, and we'll draw 4 cards here. So your Henny gets bigger, and Zurgo draws 4 like I said. And we had to draw that many in order to get into a land, so I think that can be a tap land while we're halfway with our life total. Ophiomancer, Boss's Chauffeur is tempting. That might be good after the Thalisse though. I think I want to start getting flyers into play. So throw that out and yeah, holding on to Call the Coppercoats, as we've been mentioning for the past few turns. Well, we might not be seeing 3 lands hit here. He's tapping down his fetches for mana into Zendikar's Royal. You'd think he'd want to maximise the amount of landfall he gets with this commander. Casts and Escape the Wilds, well, that'll help him. Can play an additional land. Exiles the top 5. We see Uro, Command Tower, Exploration, Steve, and is it Boilerworks is good in landfall decks because you can actually run out of lands to make. You can put your entire land base into play if the game goes on long enough, and if that's the case you can just play and bounce these back to hand with their own ability. Anyway, goes for Command Tower, so gains 4, makes a couple of 2/2s thanks to his 2 enchantments. Plays the Grasslands from the bin, is going to make 4 mana, so you'd think he'd get Uro out of the exile zone. Should probably get Exploration out of the exile zone as well. It's plus counters on everything this time. Plays the Exploration, and I would definitely, as the 3rd land, be playing Is It Boilerworks and bouncing it back to my hand here. Cracks Mirrored Landscape to make landfall twice. Will only Flame Slash everything once though. And it's a plus counter on everything twice. Make sure to put that on the stack first before the Zendikar's Royals come into play. So as we expected, Elspeth manages to stick in play. And he's really starting to buff his army. He's got a 7/7 commander. His tokens are largely 5/5s with Vigilance. And then does play the bounce land. Doesn't bounce the Boilerworks back to its owner's hand though. Oh, had another land to make thanks to the Exploration, so played a Forest. Maybe wants the untapped mana. Still doing the plus counter thing. And another land, I think. Yeah, I'm sure he just played another land there. Oh, it's the Myriad Landscape he played from the graveyard, losing track of how many land drops he has. So see who he attacks here. Might as well attack. He's got Vigilance. Okay. Is he forgetting about the Vigilance? He really should have attacked there. Keeper of the Accord, making double the tokens, will only get 1 land. Maybe with... Are we going to encourage the Jeskai player to wipe the board? Even if he does, we've got Selfless Spirit, I suppose. I'm just thinking with Thalisse on the stack and this guy now has a lot of tokens. Maybe we should crack the Call the Coppercoats now. Yeah, I think I will go for it now. So Call the Coppercoats, now onto Omnath. And that gets us 12 human soldier tokens. Thalisse will now resolve, having seen those tokens, which allows us into 12 spirits, so that was well worth the 5 mana. And it's getting to a point where our opponents really need to start worrying about Zurgo, pinging them. Need to be dealing some more damage to Omnath first though, preferably. In the trenches, creatures you control get +1/+1. They can pay 6 to exile something, and they've got the mana for that. So if they go after our Selfless Spirit, we probably just sacrifice it in response. Instead they get a Brooderclad, so anything scary they're going to make token copies of. Could upgrade these to 2/1 mirrors, I suppose. So Brooderclad makes the 2/1, and then we'll turn all the tokens into something. Actually makes a couple of 2/1s, upgraded to 3/2s thanks to the Anthem. And does create a bunch of Mir, which are slightly more fragile because they are all artifacts. So if we draw into Austere Command, we could blow up all of those. And we all just have nukes pointed at each other at the moment. It's probably Omnath's to win, but we can at least try and draw some cards with our flyers. Thalisse triggers at the end of every end step. Didn't make any tokens here though. So here we're getting to a point where we might as well play Voice of Victory. I'm just thinking of the Cruel Celebrant now. Maybe swinging in a bunch to Omnath allows us to win with that. Let's go Voice of Victory. Our white mana still isn't great, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. Priority being held up by the Omnath player, but is allowed into play even through the blue mana, so now we can go for the Cruel Celebrant, which was a lucky top deck. Might have drawn into it anyway because I was always going to swing in with all the flyers and then sacrifice at least some of them to Zurgo. We can sacrifice them one at a time and see what we draw into. But if we throw 12 over here, it goes down to 34. And then we sack the 24 things here, and it's 48 damage to everyone, so we've got them either way. Take all the spirits into the left. And there's absolutely no flyers or reachers over here, so take him down to 34, and during the attack phase again, it's rinse and repeat, sacrifice a spirit one at a time, and this time we get 2 triggers per sacrifice, so Cruel Celebrant is going to do the typical aristocrat drain, start gaining us a bunch of life. Zurgo is going to instead draw us, so I'll just draw a few cards and see how I feel about the cards we get into. Grand Crescendo we can't even cast, amazingly. Get into another white mana finally. Morbid Opportunist, I just don't see what else we're going to be drawing into that's all that relevant here. Warren Soul Trader, a means of making more mana would be fun. Whatever, let's just go through to the second main and get this game over and done with. I'm actually going to make mana with the Soul Trader instead, just in case there's an error that I'm not considering here. Play the land as well. Warren Soul Trader is not going to lose us too much life because we're going to gain it straight back with the Soul Celebrant, so might as well make the mana for free. And this time, now that our tokens are not attacking, Zurgo Stormrender is going to be pinging our opponents, so doubles up the aristocrat effects. And this way with the treasure tokens it does fix our colours, so we would be able to hold up Grand Crescendo if our opponents were able to do something about this anyway. Don't forget they can't cast spells. So that player sees the writing on the wall and decides to scoop it. It'd be good to get down the chauffeur here as well so that we could maximise the counters that go on it. That would be some form of wrath protection as well, so that if the board does get wiped this would bring in a bunch of citizens at least. But it's win more at this point. Our opponent's making us play this out. I've just, oh there we go, decides to scoop at 5 life. Just realised that Thalise cares about any tokens. So all the treasure tokens being made would make even more spirit tokens at the end there as well. So keeping the one lander paid off for us in the end. Had a little bit of luck in the beginning getting into those lands, but managing to keep the Yahenni in play with that Lightning Greaves is the thing that really unlocked the game for us, I think. Not only holding it back as a blocker, but having it as a potentially indestructible sack outlet as well. Amazingly, Zurgo didn't eat any spot removal at any point either. But that's ultimately the way that you play this deck, I think. Rely on it for card draw with a sack outlet in the early game and then go off towards the end game with the aristocrat ping from Zurgo. I really like this commander, so hopefully you all enjoy it as well. Thought I'd try and sneak in another one from this commander before the new standard set comes out. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well. They keep me afloat financially, so big thank you to them. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.